You were about to enter Chuck versus the podcast, the place for people who love Chuck and the people who work on Chuck. The only show that takes you behind the scenes with the stars.
Yvonne Strahovski.
Zachary Levi. Joshua Gomez.
Ryan McParland.
Adam Balba.
Sarah Lancaster.
Interactive interviews.
Julia Ling.
Phil Clemmer.
All the cast.
Dixon High. Tony Hale. Scott Krinsky. Mark Christopher Lawrence.
Anita Friederici.
Fun hosts.
This is Mel. This is Liz. Now you can see how wacko we are.
The writers.
Allie Adler. Scott Rosenbaum. Zev Barrow.
The editors.
Matt Barber. Jeff Granville. Kevin Mock.
Contests.
We are giving away a Chuck press kit.
The directors.
Jason Ensley. Norman Buckley.
The guest stars.
Steve Austin.
Kristen Crook.
The music.
This is Tim Jones.
Guest hosts.
I'm Kaylee from Toronto.
Conventions.
Lights come up, and here comes Jeffster out on stage.
Set visits.
This is the guy right here.
And much more. Are you ready? This is Gray.
This is Mel.
This is Liz.
And we want to welcome you to Chuck versus the Podcast, episode 59 for Wednesday, May 26, 2010. And oh my goodness, yowie, epic, holy awesome. We're talking about the finale today, and there's just not enough words to use. It was incredible.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get to the episode discussion portion of today's podcast. Can't wait. I have 3 pages of notes.
Yeah. So let's get the news over with.
Yeah, let's get the news over with.
Yeah, hurry up.
All right, well, the fast overnight ratings for the finale are in, and unfortunately, we've hit a new low. The first hour averaged about 4.96 million viewers and a 1.7 in that all-important 18 to 49 demo. And then the second hour ticked up a little bit. It averaged 5.16 million viewers and a 1.8 in the demo. And again, those are season lows and series lows, and you know they're pretty disappointing, especially considering how fantastic both of those episodes were. But to put it in context, we were up against the 2-hour 24 series finale over on Fox, and that only garnered a 2.7 in the demo, that's just crazy talk. Nobody was watching TV. The Live Plus 3 ratings, which those factor in those people who watched via DVR within 3 days of the original air, that will be released in a couple of weeks, and that should give us a clearer picture of Chuck's ratings for season 3. We know that NBC factors those ratings into their decision to renew, and Chuck does really well. It gets a pretty significant bump when those ratings are factored in. So we will be exploring that a little more in depth here in a couple of weeks after the final DVR numbers are available for the season. Now, we've had several fans who emailed and asked us how these finale ratings might impact season 4 and whether we think NBC is going to move the show to a less competitive time slot as a result of this, constantly being hammered in that Monday at 8 p.m. time slot. And first of all, season 4 is going to speak for itself. Of course, we want to bring in new viewers to the show over the hiatus. Get your DVDs out and show them the first couple of seasons, show them season 3 while it's on Hulu and on NBC.com. But, the finale's low ratings, they're going to factor into season 3 for the most part. It's not really going to do much as far as season 4, impacting season 4. We've already got season 4, so it's not really going to make a big difference at this point. Now, secondly, while it's possible NBC will decide to move the show, it seems pretty unlikely. They want Chuck to lead off their new action-adventure night next autumn, and we see that as a vote of confidence over here, that they're choosing Chuck to anchor these 2 new shows that are from some pretty big names and could be the next, I know they're hoping that the event's going to be the next Lost, and the chase is from Jerry Bruckheimer. He has a really good track record. So having Chuck lead that off, not a bad gig. And on top of that, as I mentioned, this week was the series finale of 24 over on Fox, and that was one of our biggest time slot competitors.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it's done. It's over. It's sayonara. So House will still be a factor. They're going to air that autumn and spring next year, which they had been doing it just sharing the time slot with 24. So House is still going to be a factor. Of course, the CBS comedies will, and ABC's reality block. But, at least Jack Bauer is not going to be in the mix anymore. So we've got that going for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's be honest. I got messages from people and, sheepish Chuck fans saying, listen, it was the series finale at 24. I knew Chuck was renewed, so hey, I DVR'd Chuck.
Yeah.
People did it because they knew Chuck was secure.
And I honestly think that we're going to see a pretty significant jump once the live +3 ratings are out. The number of people who DVR'd that 2-hour finale, I think that's going to be above average for the season.
Mm-hmm.
So. Not to worry.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, we can't forget that Chuck season 3 premieres in the UK on Virgin 1 on May 31st, Monday, May 31st. We're excited for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yoo-hoo! In celebration of that and the season finale in North America, we're giving away a pair of Chucks. Courtesy of Scorpion Shoes, the largest seller of Converse sneakers in the UK, Chuck fans around the world can get in on this, and you can enter to win your choice of Chucks. And again, that is around the world. We've already had some people asking, is this going to be for everybody or just for the USers? No, it's for everybody. So stop by chucktv.net and enter. Your deadline is midnight on Monday, May 31st.
Mm-hmm. And that is a big issue. I know it's frustrating. Even in Canada, you think we're, free trade between North Americans. It doesn't work out that way always. It's amazing how many contests you read the fine print and they say U.S. only. So very cool to have a contest that even we Canadians can enter.
Yes.
Even though we say a boot.
And you apologize for apologizing.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But moving on to some housekeeping notes. This is not sweeping, but more relating to the podcast. This podcast, we are moving from Friday to Wednesday, and that shortens my editing time for the podcast. But in order to get it to you quickly, you won't see as many screen caps. We have a very long finale discussion, and it would take me a very long, proportionally time to put all the screen caps in. I just won't have time this week. So I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Sans screen caps. But also, like I said, we're moving the podcast to Wednesdays for the hiatus, and that will not include next week. We are going to take a 1-week break, and then we'll be back on the following Wednesday, and hopefully going to be doing one podcast a week. We'll try. We'll see what kind of stuff is happening and how many interviews we get. We do know that there are some really cool interviews coming, so it's going to be a great summer for Chuck fans. Another housekeeping note is that I have had to pay my yearly server upgrade, and we are into a new year, and so I do need to remind the viewers of the podcast, if you like what you see, consider this. I was thinking about it this week. You pay roughly $12 or $13 to go to a 2-hour movie, or you pay between $10 and $20 for a 2-hour DVD. We've put out, I think, probably 60 or 70 hours worth of content, and it has taken a lot of time. It does take a lot of money, and so if you do enjoy the podcast, please consider a donation or many of the other ways that you can support the podcast. If you want to find out about that, you can go to chuckpodcast.com/buy, B-U-Y. And you can find out about the different ways you can buy things. Anytime you buy anything at Amazon.com, you might as well go through the podcast site. You can buy podcast merchandise. The thing that does help us the most is straight donations. And also, anytime you watch, if you're watching on your computer anyway, please do watch at blip.tv. And every click at Blip gets us a little tiny bit of cash. So we do appreciate your support. For all the many people who have supported, we do thank you so much. And if you would like to do that, it would help us a lot.
We would certainly appreciate it. And Chuck fans, you may recall that last November we ran a survey at chucktv.net asking you your opinion on what the most important element of Chuck is for you as a viewer. And we had you rank them, which threw a lot of people off. Well, guess what? We got some really interesting feedback from that survey. And now that season 3 is over, we're doing it again. We have a new survey. It has almost exactly the same questions as last time, so we can do a side-by-side comparison. And then it also includes another question about developments in season 3, asking you to rank which ones you thought were the most interesting versus least interesting. So go over to chucktv.net and look for the Chuck Fan Survey version 2.0. That will be open until Sunday night, May 30th. And then depending on what activities are coming on Memorial Day, we should have the results for you June 1st or 2nd. So keep an eye out for that.
Mm-hmm. And make your voice heard. I think if you have noticed in the interviews that we've had with people inside the production, they do look at these things. They go on the websites, they look at what the fans are saying, and this is one way that your voice can be heard in terms of the direction that you'd like the story to go in season 4.
The fine print does state, however, that this is just, we wrote it. It's only for use at chucktv.net. If anyone else reads it and takes anything away from it, bully for them, but that's not what it's for.
Yeah.
This is in no way official.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not endorsed by or sponsored by any other entity except us.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But people do find it interesting.
yeah, they do find it interesting. So.
Yeah. Cool. And something I'm really excited about that you can do during the break is we got an email from a Chuck fan who is a great fan. I think his name is pronounced Hajit. And he has provided a great way to pass the time during the hiatus while we're waiting for season 4. If you go to chucksession.blogspot.com, there's a whole bunch of fun Chuck games. There's trivia games and a whole lot more. And he has promised that he's going to post new games at least once a week during the hiatus. So you might as well bookmark that site and go back there often. I had a quick look, and it looks like there's a lot of really fun stuff there. So chucksession.blogspot.com and have some fun. But speaking of fun, okay, that's a weak segue. We're going to go over to our listener emails. And I do admit, I put out the call yesterday on Twitter for some emails related to the finale, and we got a whole bunch. And we're so thankful for you sending in your emails. It did seem like there was some overlap in the emails, so we picked a few representative ones. So I do apologize to you if your email was not read. We did read them all, and we're going to include your thoughts in our comments, and we'll read a few right here. And I'm going to start with one from Catherine from Boston. So Catherine writes, "Hey guys," or rather guy and gals, Catherine from Boston here. First off, I have to say how amazing that finale was. I can't believe how much happened. I mean, with Shaw and the Ring wanting to take down the CIA, to Casey getting his butt kicked by his daughter, to us finally getting a small glimpse at Mama Bartowski. I mean, finally, right? I have to ask, though, how long into next season do you all expect Chuck to realize that he can't just stop being a spy? There's no way he can stop now after finding his dad's super secret spy lair. Also, how do you think he's going to deal with the promise he made to Ellie? Do you think he'll try to lie about it and go back to his spy life, or just tell her straight up? I would think that at this point he can't really lie anymore. Well, we're hoping. Sorry for the rambling, but there's just so much to say. I'm done now, promise. Here's looking forward to future podcasts and a season 4 of Chuck. See ya. Well, thanks so much for your email. It wasn't too much to say because, yowie, there's a lot to say about this episode. It was absolutely amazing. I have to admit, seeing Casey get his butt kicked was one of the fun parts of the episode, and actually a great promise of season 4, what we're going to see in that character. I'm hoping that she gets involved in what's going on. But that's Spy Lair, yowie. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's going to play a huge part of season 4, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit in the spoiler section. But yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, yowie.
Yeah, I was thinking about this too, and as I was reading through this email, I had some of the same questions in my head going around. As far as Ellie's promise, or Chuck's promise to Ellie, I'm hoping. I don't know. Of course, we don't know anything what's going to go on next year, but I'm hoping that it'll just be Ellie telling Chuck something's going to happen, and Ellie tells Chuck, you know what, you really need to be back in the spy business, in the spy world, because the world needs you, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And I could totally see Ellie doing it, can't you?
Yes, and they actually set it up very well by having Papa Bartowski in his video tell Chuck this is your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
This spy thing, it runs in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And Ellie's all about family.
Yeah.
So now Chuck has a legacy passed on by their father, something that is part of their family's history. So I don't think it's going to take much for Ellie to say, you know what, go for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also particularly because Mama Bartowski is a part of this, and as soon, I mean, you think about so much of the finale, Ellie, it was finally so close to her understanding her father and why he left. It's obviously made such a huge impact on him, and if she gets wind that they actually can track down their mom, I think she's gonna encourage Chuck to do it.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, remember, she's the one who sent him after Papa.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I think they've set it up for it to be completely in character for Ellie to tell Chuck that his promise is null and void, and he's got a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm interested also to see how all of this impacts Ellie, Chuck, and Mama and Papa Bartowski all being in the spy business, or so we think. And she's not the only one that's not.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, okay, this is getting a little bit ahead, but did anyone else there were a couple of times in those episodes when I was just waiting for her to say, you know what? I've been a spy this whole time. It's like, okay, if they do that, I'm going to totally fall off my chair.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, probably we should move the rest of it to the episode discussion. But thanks so much for your email, Catherine from Boston. And let's move on to Nicola.
Yep, I've got an email from Nicola who did not tell us where she's from. So we're just going to guess that she's from, I don't know, the Ukraine. So she writes and says, "Hi there. Really love the podcast and appreciate all the work you guys do for this fandom. I have a question about the actress who plays Alex, Casey's daughter. Will she be back next season? I really liked the character, and her and Morgan would make the sweetest couple. Morgan definitely needs some lovin'." Well, Nicola.
Not according to Casey.
Yeah. I think somebody might have issue with that idea, but they did look surprisingly cute together.
Yeah.
And what she knows him from is that kind of take charge, saving her from Jeff and Lester at the Bymore. So her first impression of him is quite a bit more favorable than I think most women have had in the past, which is a good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good starting point.
Right.
So at this point, I think we can assume that she will return because they left it pretty wide open for her being included in the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
The Bartowski family, which has expanded considerably. There at the end, she was part of that, and Casey obviously wants to have her in his life, and so I think that she will be back, but we don't have confirmation on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be nice to see her mom back as well. I could definitely see them going that way in season 4. Just conjecture.
Absolutely.
Well, we have a question from Tatiana from Tustin, California. Is that right? Anyway, Tatiana says, "My question about the finale is this. Why doesn't Chuck remember the primary download? Why never any flashbacks before?" Good question. I don't know.
Well, I can guess a few things.
Okay.
Number one is Papa Bartowski knew how to remove the first intersect from Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
How did he figure that out? Was it something that he'd already developed before in removing the first one from Chuck?
There you go.
And the other thing too is it was definitely it was a hugely early prototype of the intersect. I mean, we know Papa Bartowski has a prototype intersect in him or had, and that one was nowhere near as powerful as even intersect 1.0. And so if the one that little Chuck had was even an earlier prototype, it might not have had much information at all.
That's true.
All right, I could see that.
You got to remember what technology was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It didn't use quite as much memory as it does now.
Yeah. So anyway, The rest of the emails that were sent will probably somehow surface in our episode discussion. But let's move on to our discussion of the third season finale.
Holy Moses.
Ho, ho, ho.
Woo!
Oh, my goodness.
I tell you, I was totally spent by the end of those 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even in knowing the two big things, having a pretty good idea that Papa Bartowski was going to die and that Mama Bartowski was the cliffhanger,
Mm-hmm.
I was on the edge of my seat for 2 hours. My butt hurts. It was insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Crazy.
And I found it was literally like about 6 or 7 episodes worth of stuff that was jam packed into 2 episodes, and literally like to the point where I was just keeping up, like tracking everything that was going on in my mind of just new information, new levels of the onion, and like so much going on, and yet it moved, it flowed, and I didn't feel like I was lost at all. I mean, kudos to the writers. There were 4 writers involved: Phil Klemmer, Ali Adler, Josh Schwartz, his first actual script since the first episode of season 2, and Chris Fedak. All were involved in writing this 2-part finale, and great job writing it. I mean, a lot of great stuff, great action, great dramatic stuff, significant plot developments, setting up season 4, tying up season 3. Wow.
It was emotion packed too, I think. Not just information, but emotional roller coaster ride. 1 minute you're laughing, next minute you're crying, then you're laughing again, then you're chewing your nails, and you're going, oh no. Gosh, it just was nonstop. I really and that was just in the first 20 minutes. It was crazy. I mean, I was trying to Twitter during the 2 hours, and boy, that was hard to do because there was so much going on. I didn't want to miss anything. But it was just nuts. And everybody's response was the same. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And what could you say that wouldn't spoil anything?
Yeah.
Right.
So it was just a whole lot of OMGs and, haha and
Exclamation point.
Yeah. Yeah, by the end of the episode, I was just holding down the exclamation point key, hitting enter. That's all I could do.
Yeah. And a definite caveat is there's no way we're going to be able to talk about everything. And I know we often get emails after episodes saying, but you missed this. Just trust me, we're going to miss this and that and this because we couldn't possibly mention everything. Even like great little one-liners too, it packed throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Many.
I have to mention the Star Wars reference.
Oh,
I totally loved
it.
More than one, actually. Apparently, there were 3.
Mm-hmm.
What was the third?
There was the one with General Beckman with "You're My Only Hope," which was classic, and then Casey saying "I'm your father,"
right, was
one, and somebody mentioned a third, and oh boy,
the only 2 I caught.
Oh, there was somebody tweeted about it, and it's gonna bug me now, but there is a third Star Wars reference.
My first OMG moment was when Papa Bartowski died. I didn't see that coming. I assumed that we would probably not see Papa Bartowski, Dad, in the next season. But I thought maybe he would just go off and do something else, or I don't know what, but death, that's not what I figured at all. And it was just so quick. It happened so quick. I didn't think there was a lead up to it. It was just all of a sudden Shaw pulls the gun and says, and boom, and he's down, and
yeah,
literally.
That's what got me, is it happened in the first half of the finale, and it was just bam.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, oh my, did that just happen?
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, maybe they're just going to kind of prolong this because we had just got that little bit about how they brought Shaw back with the cellular regeneration and blah, blah, blah. And they were right there. So I thought, okay, maybe they're just going to bring him back to life, or they're going to put him in stasis until they can, well, they work on something, and that's going to be part of their big against the clock race to save him. But nope. He's just gone.
He was just gone. Boy.
Yeah.
And the expression on Ellie's face, as the camera pulls back and you see just, Ellie's shadow, basically just her silhouette there. And then she turns around. Well, I lost it. I totally lost it at that point.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
again, later, but many times later.
Yeah.
That's when I got something in my eye.
Yeah. And there have been some questions about, well, Bryce came back. Remember when he was in that big thing they thought was a bomb? And then Shaw, this exact regeneration lab was where they brought him back. So people have asked, could Papa Bartowski be back? But Papa Bartowski did make it clear in the episode that the governor was keeping him alive. And they were very, very careful when he fell to show his governor smashing. And so I think they were saying in that he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because we know the ring technology was what brought Shaw back. The ring doesn't have a governor. And so even if they could somehow bring him back, they don't have his governor. So I think he's gone, except for flashbacks.
Except they did at the time, because Shaw took Chuck's.
Yeah.
They'd have to reverse engineer it, though, because the one that Dad made for Chuck was for the Intersect 2.0, and he has a prototype of Intersect 1.0. So
Yeah.
I think he's probably gone.
Yeah.
I'm just grasping at straws.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking moment, but
Yeah.
It's what geared Ellie to make some decisions, some quick emotional decisions. But boy, that was chilling. Just her, I don't know, bringing Awesome and Morgan, and it was a creation of another team.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
It was an origin story of sorts, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really neat to see that team working together, and obviously some comedic moments with Morgan and Devin in the car, first with fumbling over the gun and arguing, and then using the missile.
I love that they both know Casey well enough
Yeah,
to look at each other and say, glove box.
yeah,
And then, we use the missile.
yeah. That was great.
I think my first OMG moment was when Shaw appeared at the at CIA at their Joint Chiefs, I don't know, whatever tribunal, whatever General Beckman was speaking at, and everybody was still convinced that he was a good guy.
Yeah,
that he had been undercover as a ring agent, and Sarah and Chuck are going, no, you guys, no. And just for a split second, I thought, was it really? Could he have been? Oh,
I know. Well, and the whole thing, like when Justin brought Ellie into this facility, all along, I thought it was,
and it turns out to be CIA.
I thought it was a ring facility, and he was just pretending to be CIA. But meanwhile, all along, he's been inside the CIA doing this stuff.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
yeah,
mind blown.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah,
and again, we had Chuck knew exactly what was going on, and nobody believed him.
Mm-hmm.
Except Beckman. I think Beckman kind of did.
Yeah,
I think she was between a rock and a hard place and trying to figure out how to get out, and then she got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the moving on, my brain is like going 12 different places at once because there was so much going on in these episodes. But there's been some fans have asked, why did Chuck leave Sarah behind when Papa Bartowski came to get him and said, you have to choose. The only way to keep her safe is to run. And he said, I'll always keep you safe. And everybody went, aw. And some people said, why did they leave her there just so she could get arrested? Well, the thing is, at that point, they still thought that she would be safe. It wasn't until she pulled the gun on Shaw.
Right.
That she crossed that line and was therefore a traitor. and could be arrested. If she hadn't, which Sean knew quite well what he was doing. He was provoking her, and then, of course, she pulls the gun just as his men come in, and she got a nice kick in there ahead of time. But
I loved it.
Yes, go Sarah.
It bears mentioning that I'm gonna have to go back a few episodes to see all the things that were set up for this. I mean, knowing that Justin was CIA, when he was talking about being CIA, that he wasn't just faking it, and this whole facility. And the other thing, I love the fact that it wasn't Subway, that it was a Subway.
Yeah. And we didn't get the Subway thing until the next episode.
Yeah. And actually, I love the fact that the spoilers that we did know, like it seemed like that preview was really spoilery, but what we thought we knew wasn't true. Like I thought that the Jeffster music video was going to play while the Buy More was blowing up.
So did I.
And that totally threw me when they had this fight and the Buy More didn't blow up. And then classic when Morgan breaks his thumbs, which great job, Morgan. And I love how they're like that relationship he has with Casey growing all the time. But then when he drops the detonator, oh
yeah.
If the Buy More is gonna go, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. They did a little sneaky thing there because they released a photo, in the preview. It was in the preview, and we screen capped it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There's an image there of Morgan standing with the detonator, with the kill switch, and he has it in his unbandaged finger, an unbandaged hand. Sneaky.
Oh boy, you talk about a red herring.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
now we are jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
But we might as well get back a little earlier. Actually, way back to the beginning. I just loved Casey and his daughter.
Oh.
When he was in that coffee shop and ordering the pie, and when she knew what he was going to order, Black and Bitter, and he knew what she was studying in school, and you could tell that when he told Chuck and Sarah that he wasn't going to be in her life, like really, he must have been right in her life. Like he must have been immediately trying to somehow get close to her. And
in other words, he's a big fat liar.
Yeah. But it's great to see this side come out in Casey.
It is. It was very sweet, and it's kind of turning a corner for him as a character.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen him kind of softening. Well, over the first couple of seasons, he started to soften, but then this last season in particular, he was really starting to soften towards Chuck and Sarah. And now I think that's kind of prepared him for his daughter to be a part of his life. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that Casey in season 4, or any Casey, really. I like any Casey, but
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Look at all the times he's been witness to the Bartowski family things, the dinners, the parties. Shoot, that's he's had an eyeful. All the family value thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now he has a family. Aww.
Yeah. Which does make him vulnerable.
Yes. It was interesting to note, however, that Casey and Sarah were the ones who were struggling with emotion getting in the way of them performing their jobs, while Chuck was the one who was able to be unemotional for the most part. I mean, obviously, Shaw knew which button to push.
Yeah.
When he shot Orion, but there were just a couple of times when it was mentioned that you're being too emotional, Agent Walker. You're being too emotional, Casey.
Mm-hmm.
It's interfering with your duties. Mm-hmm. I thought that was an interesting switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And should be mentioned, I love the way Papa Bartowski got Chuck out of this CI detention facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even the message at the end, it led that he's Orion to the end.
He is.
Yes, he is.
And apparently there are a whole nother set of constellations that we got to figure out who they are and what they're doing. Loved that.
Yeah.
I actually yelled yes
Yeah.
when he was down there, and we started getting panning over all of those boxes of intelligence, and there was one for Ted Rourke. I don't know if you guys. There was one for Rourke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was one that had been captured. I liked how he stamped it on there. Captured.
Mm-hmm.
The triangulum or something like that. But there's Hydra. There's so much potential for season 4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and a cool thing is there's potential for great bad guys, but there's also potential for allies. Like when you think of a lot of the superhero stories in comic books, a lot of it is seeing the way other superheroes are developing and the way they work together. I'm no closet fan of Smallville. I love that show, and everybody just loves when there's a new superhero that Clark starts to work with, and it'd be great to see Chuck actually start to work with these cool super spies.
I agree.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We've seen it turning away from it being this little team of 3 into bringing Awesome into the mix, and then Morgan, and now Ellie. I like how it's expanding, and maybe Alex. I'm not really sure what she knows at this point, but I like that it's expanding and becoming sort of a Justice League type.
Yeah, and the thing is, and of course we don't know anything about season 4. I mean, for all we know, and I don't think so, but for all we know, season 4 could start and they've rebuilt the Buy More and everything's back to normal. I don't think so. This could go in a direction where they're not confined to a certain location, and they're not. And bear with me for a second, but one of the complaints people had with this season was that we didn't see all of the cast in every episode. But I could see with this type of storyline, them being able to go a little more modular, where they don't necessarily have all of the cast in every episode, but they're pursuing these different, like say they're pursuing Hydra this week, and so we find out more about Hydra, and maybe only see 4 or 5 of the cast, but they can take that budget and have a really cool actor playing Hydra, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they
Absolutely.
I think they could do it.
It's kind of what they tried to do in the first 13 episodes of this season with varying degrees of success. And then in the last 6 episodes, they really worked with the, especially in 14, 15, and a little bit in 16, they really worked with branching out into other locations.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was 12, 13, and 14 and 15. They kind of went off site a little, even though most of it was green, but, just kind of experimented with that. And I think they've set themselves up for a really spectacular season 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think they kind of worked out some kinks, and they have this amazing storyline that they could go with, which I think that they will. I think that literal reboot that we saw, Chuck actually rebooting, I think that was our sign of, yes, this is a reboot, but it's not meaning we're going back to start, meaning we're kind of clearing out some of the things that have been tying these characters down, and now they're on to work, including working within the confines of official government agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now they've kind of shed those things and are going to go off into something different.
I think that's why it was so important for the Buy More to just completely be burned to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was very telling. It would kind of put a permanent stamp on the end of that story. So
if I were to predict, I would say, and people have expressed, well, we needed the Buy More, we needed that comic release. Obviously with Jeffster on the Lamb, I mean,
that's comedy gold.
That is comedy gold.
How much more funny can you get?
Yeah. And
also having Morgan in the mix, Morgan to interact with Casey and Morgan to interact with Awesome.
Yeah.
We've already seen how genius that is.
Yeah. Well, and you've got Big Mike is still with Morgan's mom. So and what I see is that it's going to be the relationships that tie them together. in season 4.
Oh, not the location.
Right,
It's
not the location, but the
Yowzer.
relationships.
Yeah.
Which I like that.
I knew you'd agree with me.
Can we talk about Casey's reaction to Morgan
No.
regarding his daughter? That was so funny how quickly Casey stepped into that father role.
Yeah.
Of being the, why do you have my daughter's phone number? Ready to kill him?
Yeah.
I have to wonder if the whole break your thumbs, Morgan, wasn't just a little bit of revenge or maybe warning. But Morgan went for it. Gotta give the little guy props. He did it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't even complain. He just did it. Ugh.
Yeah.
I cringed big time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I did too.
But yes, protective Casey is fun Casey.
Yeah. I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
Morgan better watch his back.
And how cool was it to finally see little Chuck and little Ellie?
Mm-hmm.
And get some more insight into why Ellie is the way that she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was told you have to take care of Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, that's been one of the complaints about her character is, well, she's underutilized, but we've, seen a lot of her in the last few episodes. I'm so glad.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Lancaster has been amazing with the storyline. But she's also been, one of the critiques of her character is that she's overbearing and overly protective of Chuck and to the point of being kind of shrill or shrewish.
Mm-hmm.
But now we see that goes all the way back to when she was 11 and she was, you have to take care of him. And then we found out in that flashback that just a few days after that incident that we were flashing back to is when their mom left.
Yeah.
So she has this ringing in her ears and then their mom walks out. Mm-hmm. And Chuck says, you practically raised me. So it was a really interesting insight into Ellie as a character and their brother-sister dynamic.
Well, and their dad left when she was 12, right?
No, it was a few more years because
was it a few more?
She was old enough to be Chuck's guardian.
Oh, okay. Because Chuck made that comment about a 12-year-old shouldn't have to manage the bank account. Because
I'm guessing Orion was not good with numbers. I mean, I'm guessing that we've seen him. He's the literal absent-minded professor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm betting he was not the one in charge of the household finances. So something that Mama did all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Ellie took over, and a little bit of personal experience coming in there. I wasn't 12, but I was 15 when my parents split, and I did take over the family finances. So you just do what you got to do when in that situation. So I think that's what that was. But I think it's been said in the past that Ellie was 18 or 19.
Oh, okay.
When Stephen left, it was, kind of once he was sure that she was of age and Chuck wouldn't be taken is when he got out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was another gasp moment for me was when little Chuck walked into that room and he slowly walks up to the screen and I knew it was coming. Oh my God, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just mind blowing.
Yeah. Oh, and how great was it for them to cut back from that flashback to see Ellie in the car, and she's basically telling Devin and Morgan, even if it's a suicide mission, we're going in for Chuck.
Yeah.
Like that was just so much passion there.
Mm-hmm.
It's got goosebumps thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean this was an emotionally charged episode.
Mm-hmm.
And she handled it differently than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
At first she was shocked to find out that her brother was part of this, and then she's upset with Awesome for not finding out more about her dad.
Yeah, and how fun was it to bring Morgan in as the expert?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So, we'll see. Anyway.
What else?
People have been saying that when Shaw got up from the ground, it was a T-1000 reference from the Terminator.
Mm-hmm. It was.
The way his eyes came open was definitely Terminator-ish.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. I think it was again. We saw later that Chuck actually rebooted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was a little bit of a precursor to that, a little bit of foreshadowing to say, this guy's no longer completely human.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has a computer in his brain, people.
Yeah.
It was a nice touch. It was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there were a few instances of foreshadowing. I know definitely with regard to Scott Bakula, there were a couple of comments that he made about like, this is the last time I'm going to leave you and things like that.
That should have been my hint.
Yeah. But I thought that they morphed so smoothly into this new dynamic.
They really did.
With Ellie and Devin and Morgan and Casey, and like just everybody being this team and working together. And it was effortless. It was smooth how it just all of a sudden was this new thing.
I think that speaks to how much the characters trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
On this really, really deep level. Even Casey trusts these people that he's stuck with. And so, there's this initial a moment of shock and information overload. And they're all smart people and capable people, each in their own area.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just step up, they're strong.
Yeah.
They say, okay, then let's do this.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this new dynamic and the new direction of the show. Oh,
I am too. I have to say one more thing about the reboot.
Mm-hmm.
My son was sitting next to me. Of course, I've mentioned before that he's my Chuck buddy. And when that happened, Chuck opened his eyes and starts to get up because he didn't just jump up. My son and I both let out the biggest scream. And I got a text from my daughter. My oldest daughter lives downstairs from us. And I got it. What happened? What's wrong? I couldn't help it. It just came out of me because it's just one of those moments that that if this were in a movie theater, that would be the time that the crowd would just have cheered all together.
It would have brought down the house.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I really enjoyed, if you think about it, from the beginning to the ending of this 2-hour finale, it was a chess match between Chuck and Shaw.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about it that way, it was really an enjoyable chess match. Like, you see, one gets the upper hand and the other one gets the upper hand and the other one gets the upper hand. And I loved when Chuck, we had a bit more of the previous Chuck days when Chuck had just to kind of use his wisdom to figure something out when he gets that webcam and gets Shaw to reveal himself.
His nerd herd skills, man.
Yes.
His nerd herd skills. He didn't flash to do that.
That's right.
I love that, and also I thought that the malfunctioning intersect was really well played. Like, I thought it could have been cheesy, it could have been too much, and they had to ride the balance between what he was able to do and what he wasn't, and then when it did finally incapacitate him, it was a nice moment between him and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was just really, really well done, and then when you get to the end and in the fight, like he's trying to do it, but he's still suffering this failure of his intersect. It was just great.
Yeah, and hats off to Zachary Levi for those scenes. I felt myself going, suffering right along with him. He was so convincing. He played it so well, and so real. Boy, I felt that pain. Woo.
He didn't. Everybody did just a fantastic job in this episode, but of course he carried most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Zach did, and he just constantly surprises me. He is up for whatever the writers give him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's, mad props to him.
Yeah.
I wanted to step back for a minute and talk a little bit about Casey and Sarah.
Yeah.
Because we had a couple of really nice moments in this one when they were in the brig, or whatever you would call it, in the CIA building. And Casey tells Sarah, you picked a good one, finally. And she's got this little look on her face.
Well, and I love the moment right before that when Justin says, "No, they found the other facility."
Yeah, and Casey and Sarah are both just beaming with pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a beautiful moment. And then when the decision has been made that, Chuck and Sarah are going to part ways with Casey again. They tried that last season too. Doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
And he called her Agent Walker. He says, goodbye, Agent Walker. And then he says, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time he's called her Sarah.
Yeah.
It was nice that they gave it a little bit of emphasis to show. And we've had a few of those moments throughout the season in particular, showing that they're friends, underneath being partners. They are friends. They trust each other. They like each other. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, for me, that was just a nice little cap for them for the season. It was those two moments. Yeah.
Yeah. People have, somebody commented that they expected in the season finale to see more intimacy with Chuck and Sarah. But I just thought, when? And there was so many really important emotional levels going on. You had some tender moments with Chuck and Sarah, which I thought were really, really important for their relationship, and you got a lot from it when she's seeing him deal with his father's death and be incapacitated by the intersect, and you've also got all the levels of Ellie and her father and Chuck overcoming this challenge to his intersect to defeat Shaw, and it didn't bug me at all. I thought there was I don't know if I would have been able to handle it emotionally with everything else going on.
Mm-hmm. What I saw between them was just this deep understanding, of, especially on Sarah's part. Whatever Chuck's going through, I'm there to help him get through it.
Yeah,
we're gonna do this. We've been through tough stuff before, life and death situations. Bring it. Yeah, Yeah. It's just another Thursday. That's what I saw from her, was no doubt in her mind where she stands with him emotionally, and where his heart is. She has no doubt. She has no reason to question him, and so her goal, her motivation is to help him get through this and figure out how to do her job and how to help him do his job and how to help Casey. And so I thought we got a lot of really nice moments, like you said, when he was incapacitated, when he was dealing with his father's death. And then there were several times when he would say something and look at her, or before he said something, he would look at her and she would give him a little nod, or, just some tiny little facial expression that Yvonne's so good at. Mm-hmm. And then he would go, he would build off of that. Yeah. Like a couple who knows each other inside and out.
Yeah. And I love when he says, "I'm giving up the spy life," how she's right there with him.
Yeah, I like this new Sarah, this softer,
more confident.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing Sarah change over the seasons, she was, as a spy, she was so insecure. I've never seen a more insecure spy, and it was quite possibly because of the setting, being around Chuck and Ellie and Morgan and that situation there. But to see her now, she just really seems so comfortable in her skin. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
Yeah, more secure.
And I think she can do more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yet at the same time, obviously, when you're emotionally invested, it can make you fight all the harder to defend what's special to you.
Yeah, but there's no hesitation now on her part. She's, let's do it. Let's go. And she's all there, 150%. And there's no hesitation anymore. And that's part of the realness of her now, and her confidence, her self-confidence. I love it. Mm-hmm. I love it.
So,
oh gosh,
boy, other than the, just really nice moment at the end when Chuck goes to the computer and it's his dad's goodbye message.
It was Orion's spy wheel.
Yeah.
He gave Chuck all of his intel, which is what the spy wheel is supposed to do.
Yeah. Except all of his intel took up a whole building.
A vault under their childhood room. Of course it does.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait till next season to see what that's all about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we were talking about how this sets up season 4.
Mhm.
You know, I think this particular thing sets up season 4, 5, 6. Like
It
there is so much they could do with this.
Yeah.
I as much as we love the Buy More, as much as we love the orange, etc. Like it does start to feel very almost procedural to be doing the same things every time, and to be digging in like this to all of these different mythologies and these different characters. I mean, I think they've just all of a sudden unlocked huge story potential.
Absolutely. Oh, look, we agree again.
Was that an echo? I thought that was. This is Mel in stereo.
Yeah. And I think the only other thing we could talk about, Mama Bartowski.
Mm.
We can talk about some non-spoilery Mama Bartowski and then some spoilery Mama Bartowski. So the non-spoilery stuff is everybody's having a lot of really fun discussions about who could play Mama Bartowski.
I think the front runner is Linda Carter.
Ooh.
'Cause she looks an awful lot like Sarah Lancaster.
Yeah, and the great thing about Linda Carter, well, a couple of things that people have mentioned is, number one, that she already has the ability to morph into different characters. Also, she can play the fun, which is really important. She can be really hard-lined, but then also play the fun side.
Yeah, she should be able to go between. On Chuck, it calls for drama, comedy, action. You know, you have to be a pretty well-rounded actor if you're going to spend any kind of time on that show.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agree. Linda Carter could do it. Some people have suggested Kate Jackson. I think because they want to have Mr. and Mrs. Scarecrow,
Mm-hmm.
Scarecrow and Mrs. King both on the show. I'm not sure. Who was the other name that was getting thrown around?
Lena Olin was one.
Yes, Lena Olin.
And also Mary, McDonnell.
From Battlestar, yeah.
Yeah, I mean we've seen she can. I don't know. I mean she can do hardline. I just don't see her as the kind of spy that I think they've set this up to be.
I haven't seen her do humor ever.
Mm-mm.
A little bit in Dances with Wolves.
Oh, yeah, a little bit, I guess.
A little bit in The Closer.
It's a very dry wit.
Yeah,
Which
very
could work.
dry. Which could
'Cause-
work.
If you think about it, Scott Bakula didn't really have to do humor, did he?
Well, you know, like he was. I wouldn't call it funny, but a really quirky, entertaining character.
Yeah, quirky. That's a good word.
Mhm.
Gosh, I'm gonna miss him. He better come back in flashbacks.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So some fun discussion about who's gonna play that character, and they haven't decided yet, and they are eagerly looking for somebody of the same caliber as Scott Bakula, because they understand that this is huge.
I'd like to mention hats off to Tim Jones and
Yes.
getting the music and the songs that they picked for these last 2 episodes were spot on. I think I enjoyed them not more than this whole season. I think the beginning of this season, I was a little thrown by it, but then I think I got so used to it. This is part of Chuck. This is what Chuck is, the show. And I liked the placement was perfect. The choices they made were awesome. And I just hats off to Tim Jones.
Mm-hmm. Tim and Josh Schwartz and Alexander Pizzavas.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There was just everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Going on.
Mm-hmm.
I was really pleased with myself for being able to recognize Band of Horses immediately. That is all Chuck, people.
Yeah.
That is all Chuck. But also at the beginning of the second episode, at the beginning of The Ring Part 2, there are a couple of music cues that are Tim Jones creations that had me laughing out loud. I was literally lolling. That there were this kind of sort of tongue-in-cheek take on adventure music, action music, that was set to Casey and Morgan when they were in the car.
Yeah.
Was one of them. And then there was another one that had to do with Jeff and Lester, that just a couple of little stings there that just they caught my funny bone and just made me laugh. I mean, he always does a good job, but every now and then there's something like that just sends me into fits of giggles.
Yeah, which we should mention, if you haven't seen the Jeffster special yet, you got to go back and watch that one. Specifically, Gene Edwards and Tim Jones, both. You just get a sense from them that when they're doing the music, that they're putting a lot into it. They're also enjoying the process and putting even humor into it. I mean, when they talk about the 80s references, even in the music, that the same kind of writing that goes into the writing of the show also goes into the writing of the music. So very, very fun stuff.
Well done.
Yep.
Well done.
Well crafted episodes, always. Yeah.
Yep. So we'll talk a little tiny bit more about it in the spoiler section, which we do have. But first, we're going to talk about our sponsors. And so we again want to thank our brand new sponsor, Brunel's Web Solutions, which offers custom website design, web marketing, CMS integration, WordPress, and programming. You can visit their website at www.brunels.com. That's BRENELZORZ.com. And as I mentioned last time, the owner of the company is a fan of Chuck, and you can follow him on Twitter at Brunels, BRENELZORZ. So thank you to Brunel's Web Solutions for being our sponsor for the Jeffster special and for this finale podcast.
We also want to thank MovieMorons.com. They're a longtime sponsor of ours, and they're going to be sponsoring us for another season of Chuck and another season of Chuck versus the podcast. MovieMorons.com is a podcast all about film, so check them out. And, of course, SyrianJunkies.de, the largest German language television fan site out there. They've got everything, including Chuck. And they also are sponsoring Chuck versus the podcast for another season. We want to thank them so much for that. And go ahead and check them out, SyrianJunkies.de.
And they will have some cool stuff happening within a couple of weeks. So watch even more closely to see the cool stuff they're going to bring. But we are going to start to wrap this up. Want to remind you to check out chuckpodcast.blip.tv for all of our back episodes. As a matter of fact, somebody mentioned, I can't confirm this, but somebody mentioned that on iTunes, they've started to drop some of the oldest episodes. iTunes will only let you show a certain number of episodes at a time. And so if you want the full catalog, the only place apparently that you can do it now is blip.tv. So that's where you can get all of our episodes. And that's a great thing to do during the Chuck hiatus. Also, we want to remind you, as I mentioned, go to chuckpodcast.com/buy, B-U-Y, to find out some of the ways that you can support the podcast. It would be a great help.
And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to share those with us at mail@chuckpodcast.com.
And we love your emails because they give us something to talk about.
That's right. And don't forget to check out the giveaway of a pair of Chucks sponsored by Scorpion Shoes and our new Chuck fan survey at chucktv.net.
And of course, always go to chucktv.net to find out what's going on, because there will be a lot going on in the summer.
That's right.
Yep. So we'll wrap it up for this week. We do have a tiny spoiler section. So if you don't want spoilers, just pull out your headphones, stop your iPod, shut down the iTunes, whatever you need to do. But if you like the spoilers, let's keep listening. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye, Chucksters.
And we're back. And the tiny spoiler we have is all about Chris Fedak.
That's right. He did an interview with Alan Sepinwall, per usual, post-mortem of season 3. And in addition to talking about the season that we've just gone through, Alan was able to get a few little tidbits out of Chris regarding season 4. They know where they want the story to go, but of course Chris isn't giving us much. But what he does say is that it's going to be about family. It's going to be about the search for Chuck's mom, Chuck and Ellie's mom. That's, I think it's going to be their overarching storyline for season 4.
Which, honestly, I think is so much more interesting than, I mean, I thought Fulcrum was a nice foe. I thought the ring was a nice foe. But I think that having this as the overarching or arcing or however you say that plot is, I think that's hugely interesting.
It's so much more personal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm not real keen on the ring. I thought they never did really live up to their potential. The Fulcrum, I don't know, they just seem more dangerous, and rings just seemed like a bunch of people running around doing whatever they wanted with no real plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think, however, that we might see a little bit more development of that in season 4. I don't think we've seen the last of the ring. But I'm excited that finding Mama Bartowski is going to be the main goal for season 4.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to look for little clues in each episode if they drop them.
Yep. And now there is some discussion going on at, was it Osceola Files, where they were talking about who's going to play Mama Bartowski. Something we didn't mention was that if you have an opinion, to make sure to post it there, because who knows? Somebody might see it. Yeah.
That is over at Osceola Files.
Yeah.
And pretty much any Czech-related website out there is talking about it.
Yeah.
But yes, Osceola has an armchair casting post up for Mary Elizabeth Bartowski.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So, hey, who knows? If you think of some unique actress that they haven't thought of, and you mention it there, and Chris Fedak or Josh Schwartz happens to read that and sees your suggestion, who knows? It might.
Hey, you know what? It's been known to happen.
Yeah.
It's been known to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
Yes, it has.
There's a major player in the new season of True Blood that starts in a couple of weeks that heard about the role on our True Blood website and went for it and got it.
Wow.
So, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
There is another kind of little spoiler. Alan asked Chris Fedak about Jeff and Lester, now that the Buy More's been blown up. Should fans be concerned that we're not going to see them anymore? And what about Big Mike? And Chris's response is, and I quote, "It would be hard for me to imagine the Chuck show without those guys," end quote.
Yay!
So I think they're going to find a way to keep Jeff, Lester, and Big Mike around.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I don't think it'll be another electronics store.
Yeah, I think they're ready for bigger and better things.
Yeah.
I mean, Big Mike could manage a Subway. How about that?
Hey.
There you go. There's your product placement.
Or Big Mike could manage Jeffster.
Or that.
Even better.
It's been mentioned.
I don't know, though. His
Yeah.
blood pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we digress.
We do, as usual.
Yeah.
So it was an epic season finale. And I know that we've made a joke out of that. Epic and game changer,
Mm-hmm.
Drink. But if any episodes deserve the term epic applied to them, it was these 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and last year's finale was a game changer in
It was.
one very small way, a very small, very significant way.
Mhm.
But it was it was a one thing that was a game changer. But this is like, the whole game board is being replaced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a whole new
Reboot.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. A literal reboot. I absolutely love that they did that. A literal reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all we have for this week. And so watch for us in 2 weeks. And watch for us throughout the summer for lots of really, really cool stuff.
That's right.
So till next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye, Chucksters.